Tree got up.
Welcome, folks. We'll be getting started in just a minute, making sure all of our tech is working. Live on YouTube as well. Thank you for joining us. We'll wait a few minutes because we only had 3 logins so far. So we'll see if Saturday afternoons are always fun.
Maybe they also thought it was still 1:20.
Quite possible.
And this is going to be available. Will you leave it on the website for a bit? Was that the deal?
Yeah, we'll leave it up on the YouTube page for a week.
Awesome. Okay, good. So maybe if people aren't inspired right now to wrap, they might be inspired later to wrap.
Most definitely. I do see that we have some on YouTube. So thank you for joining us, everyone. My name is Annie Tillman. I am the Adult Program Coordinator at the library. Today we're joined by Colleen Klimczak. She'll be teaching us how to stay organized this holiday season and hopefully sane. I know that there is so much going on for everybody, and this holiday season looks completely different, but we're here together to kind of control some of that chaos, hopefully. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Colleen. As always, we'll be taking questions more towards the end of the program. She'll be doing a wrapping demonstration and we can ask questions during that time. So I'll pop back on the screen and then you guys can type those either in the chat box or in the Q&A box and I'll pass those along. So thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thanks, Annie. And thanks guys for being here with us today. I am excited. And I hope you are too. Okay, there we go. So welcome. And my name is Colleen Klimczak. I am a certified professional organizer. I specialize in residential and small business organizing. That means that I help people just like you and me manage stuff and paper and tasks and time so that their life works better. I own Peace of Mind Professional Organizing LLC. And I've been doing this since 2003. Oh my gosh. But I've been helping people get a handle on their home and businesses and schedules and lives. So I personally think I have the coolest job ever. Just this week, I helped to decorate. This is what I call the glitter season. So I got to put away Thanksgiving at a couple homes and pull out Christmas decor in a couple homes. And so I get to have fun this time of, I get to have fun most times of year, but definitely this time of year, helping people get ready for their holidays. So, yeah, glitter everywhere this time. I can think of worse things to be covered in, but yeah, I come home covered in glitter. So, today we're going to talk about organizing our wrapping and our gift giving and just some general holiday organizing tips. And as with all of my presentations, if you guys have seen me at the library, so I'm going to give a whole bunch of different suggestions and you are absolutely welcome to take what you want and leave the rest. Not everything is going to resonate with you and that's totally fine. But I hope that you find at least a few nuggets, a few pearls that are helpful to you. And I would love to hear about it. If they do work with you or don't work with you, you know, just I'd love to hear feedback either today or via email. You guys have my handout and that has all of my contact information up at the top. So please feel free to reach out. So I'm so happy to be here. I'm very excited to do this program. It's a lot of fun. And our description for today, our class description again, is to kind of get our organizing or our wrapping, but also our gift giving and that kind of things organized, as that is what I do. So this actually was inspired by a blog that I wrote a number of years ago. It was entitled 300 Words About Gift Wrapping. And then we all have other things to do. Like that was actually the 300 words. So I wanted to make sure to keep it brief when I wrote that blog. And I will try to keep it brief and on task today for everybody as well. So A little known fact probably about me is that as a teen and young adult, I worked at a local Hallmark chain. So I grew up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I worked at Don's Card Hut. So Don was my boss, and there were 4 different of these stores, 4 different Don's Card Huts in Kalamazoo and Portage, Michigan. And it was a great job for a high schooler and a college student. And around the holidays, much to my delight, I could spend my whole shift. So 4 hours in an evening or 8 hours on a Saturday, I could spend my whole shift gift wrapping for the customers. That was a service that we offered, and it was especially popular, obviously, at Christmas time. So, in addition to under the subheading of other tasks deemed necessary that often fall under my umbrella of professional organizing, I actually sometimes still get paid by some of my clients to wrap gifts and organize gift giving for my clients. Is that so fun? It's just so cool. So again, I love my job. So I know a few things is the point of all of that. And not just in organizing, but also certainly about how to wrap nice professional looking gifts. So that is where we are headed today. I hope that works out for you guys. So a couple of things that I want to talk about before we actually get into the hands-on wrapping, and I will actually be wrapping presents here today. It was very fun when I got to do this in person. So if you guys could see my dining room, it's kind of hilarious, the array of supplies that I have. I actually have a table that I set up in the basement most years, but I set it up here just for today, and then I'll move everything downstairs. But so let's, like I said, get started on the actual content. So the first thing I want to remind you guys is that as we are getting ready for the holidays, and especially with our gift wrapping and gift giving, we cannot wait until Christmas Eve. Let me say it a couple more times, right? We cannot wait until Christmas Eve. I actually was working with a client this morning in her home office, and she wanted to know what the content was for today. And so I mentioned that, and she said, "Oh, what happens when we have 5 gifts for one child and no gifts for another?" And I said, "That's exactly one of my points." So let's list all the different ways that waiting too long can go wrong, right? So first, you wait too long and it's Christmas Eve, and then you find out that you don't have the right wrap, or you don't have enough paper, or you're out of tape, and the stores are either completely closed or they're completely insane, and you don't want to go there just for wrapping paper, right? So that's one way that things can get you into trouble. Or if you do go on Christmas Eve, there's no selection left. It's all strange colors or ugly ribbons or whatever that might be. And so if we go early and plan early, we have a better chance of getting things that we actually want, which is always good, right? Another way it can go wrong is, like my client this morning mentioned, upon wrapping your gifts, you realize that you're missing a gift or two, or you've misplaced your gift or two, or you don't have batteries for the things that need batteries, right? Maybe the items that you waited until the last minute to assemble are tougher to assemble than expected. And so what you thought would be a simple task turns out to be hours of frustration at midnight on Christmas Eve, which is not what anybody wants to be doing probably at midnight on Christmas Eve. And then there's the question of, why wait, right? Wouldn't it be nice to, in years past, we've always gone to go see movies on Christmas Eve. I don't think that will be happening this year. Let me rephrase. That absolutely won't be happening this year. But it's been something nice that we've been able to do because all of our stuff is done, to be able to take advantage of those relaxing moments together instead of feeling so frazzled and things like that when it comes right down to Christmas Eve or the day before you see people or you need to ship things out, etc. Right? And then, especially this year, what if somebody gets sick, or you get sick, or delayed, or stuck in bad weather, right? If you were actually traveling, which so many of us are not this year. So that all those different things can sneak up and can get us into trouble, right? So let me tell you a little story. My oldest son is turning 23 on Christmas. Christmas Day, yes. So yes, I had a Christmas baby. My due date was December 19th that year. I had a doctor's appointment on the 22nd, and my doctor assured me that nothing would be happening and that we should plan on being induced on the 29th. Yeah, that didn't happen. So it was Christmas Eve, and I realized that I was in labor. We headed to the hospital at 4 p.m. on Christmas Eve in a snowstorm. My water broke by 6, and my son was born at 12:27 Christmas morning. So for the sake of today and organizing our holidays, right, let me tell you that our gifts and desserts still made it to great grandma's for Christmas Eve, even if we did not, because everything was ready to go before before that time. Thank goodness. I don't think I would have been able to put stuff together and think straight at that point. So I'm really glad that I had done it ahead of time. So now that we've kind of set up of why, right? Why would we want to do this? Let's talk about the how to. Okay. So a few things. Again, today I am just offering suggestions. So please use this information as you wish. My kids are older now. And even when they were younger, we didn't go big into the whole Santa idea. So just so you know, around our house, Santa just fills the stockings. It's in a little arrangement that I worked out with Santa long ago. And he doesn't have to wrap the gifts in the stockings because he has limited space on the sleigh. So that was how we made that work. A couple of things too. You can tackle this project in pieces. Absolutely. So when my kids were smaller, I would do it on, Tuesday nights when everybody was at Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts. Or when they were really little, I would do this in pieces at nap time, or in the afternoon when everyone was out, or first thing in the morning, or after everybody went to bed. So it's not like I did everything all at once, unless you want to do it all at once, in which case go for it. But I kind of like to parcel it out in pieces. And it also helped me again to remember what I had on hand wrap wise, what I had on hand gift wise, that kind of stuff. So it was just a good way to check in with things. Okay, so that's kind of the setting you up to succeed time wise, right? So the first thing that you want to do really as you get started in this wrapping project and also just organizing your gift giving is to dedicate some space to gift wrapping. So we have an old kitchen table in the basement, and that's actually where I tend to set up my wrapping in the basement at this time of year. So I could also say maybe you set up a folding table or a banquet table in your space. If you've ever been to one of my organizing presentations, that may be the only time I ever tell you it's okay to set up a banquet table or a card table for workspace, because I don't like to tell people to do that if they're working on clutter or paper projects, because unfortunately, sometimes those tables stay up and they stay covered with stuff. So I almost never tell people to set up a banquet table or a card table, but I will for this purpose. So definitely. And plan to leave it up for a few days, right? So if you do tackle this project in pieces like I do, like that's one way to do it. You want to kind of leave these things set up so that, as you get the Amazon box with a few more gifts, you could wrap things right then. You could kind of wrap as you go. And we tend to leave it up. I tend to leave it up through Christmas Day, because even if I am not wrapping presents last minute, it is highly likely that people in my house might be doing so. And so we tend to leave it up until like the day after Christmas. So there you go. Mine's in the basement. Like I said, right now you're in my dining room. We got our Christmas tree up just last night, just for all of you to see. I'll give you a little view there. There you go. And so after we've dedicated space to our project, now I want you to collect your tools, okay? So what are wrapping tools, right? So we might have scissors. I usually have a couple pairs of scissors. I usually have a couple kinds of tape. So this is regular Scotch, and this is actually double-sided. So it's sticky on both sides, and we're gonna talk about that in a little bit. We have pens, we have gift tags, we have like all of that kind of stuff. And I actually have most of that just in a basket, right? And it sits on the table with me, right? And that is where things need to go back to as I'm working. Because on a table full of gifts and gift wrap, your scissors are absolutely going to get lost, at least more than once. So if you establish that place to begin with, hopefully your items will be found again. And like I said, it makes that leaving it up and ready for you that much more successful. So go ahead and collect your supplies. So that's tape and scissors, pens, maybe Post-it notes. I have my stapler here with me because I'm going to be making bows in a little bit and walking you through that process. So that's something that I usually keep with me when I'm doing my gift wrapping as well. Like I said, expect some of those things to get lost or go traveling. So I have more than one. I actually have a couple pairs of scissors and a couple things of tape, right? So because they disappear, but they tend to come back. They could get covered up with who knows what on the table as you work. So like I said, I want you to collect those tools. And one thing I noticed yesterday when I was actually setting up for this, that's not on my list, but should be, is a garbage can or a recycling bin. So that's really helpful for scraps and dribs and drabs, labels or price tags and things like that, just so they don't get stuck on the bottom of a gift or something like that. We wouldn't want that to happen. So making sure that you have a place to toss that stuff is really, really helpful too. Okay. Like I said, expect to misplace those things, but at least you'll stay strong. And then after we've collected our tools, I want you to collect your gift wrap from around your home as well. Now, this seems like a foregone conclusion, right? Like, oh, of course I would do that. Well, yes, of course you would. But it's also interesting to me where sometimes a wrap ends up in multiple places. Okay. So as I say, collect your gift wrap as well. Obviously you want to go and grab specifically your holiday paper and tissue paper, right? That's easy. So we have a bin that goes in our crawl space along with all of our Christmas decor. And that is where my really specifically, I just bought this today, but the really specifically holiday wrap goes. Is in that box. And so I have, I pulled all of that out yesterday to prepare for this class. So I had an opportunity to inventory what I have and what I need. Turns out I needed more wrapping paper. So that was really helpful to know that. So holiday paper and tissue paper, right? Now, also, we can also grab our holiday bags and bins. So I did that, and we have a number of, cookie tins or, decorated boxes and things like that that actually come decorated, that start out decorated. I have a stash of them. I'll get to that in a minute. But we have all of those together. So again, when we pull them all out, we can have them all at once. And then specifically our holiday ribbons and bows. So there's a lot of things that are specific to the holidays, like this one is a fabric ribbon, but it's, hey, that is pretty darn Christmassy. I mean, come on. However, there's also things around our house that might work as well. So this one was intended for Christmas, obviously, because it's red and green and white. And you can tell that it's well loved. But this one was actually in my regular gift wrapping stash, because I use these colors throughout the year on other gifts, on other, packages and things like that. So I made sure that I collected those items as well. So actually I have a hanging wrap like bag. I didn't bring that upstairs. It lives in my laundry room, which is where I have a workspace in there. That is where I tend to wrap gifts throughout the year. And so I went through that real quick, and this is the stuff that I grabbed out of that container. That was just my general wrap. So these are just some nice bright red. All of my tissue paper, right? So the gold dots might be for an anniversary gift, or a wedding gift, or just a birthday. So it could be everywhere. So this is all the stuff I accumulated that could be Christmas, but I actually had in other places to be used at other times of the year. So we want to bring all of that together. Any other tissue papers, any, solid color bags that could work, that could be red, white, green, brown, like a brown paper sack. So all of those can also work for the holidays. So make sure to collect all of that stuff together, right? This week, a client of mine was ready to go out and buy more wrap. And as we were taking out her Christmas decor from her crawl space, I came across 10 rolls that she had bought last year. So I was very glad that she had not gone and bought more wrap, because then we would have to find space for all of that extra. So we made sure to check her holiday decor before we went shopping, because there were lots of things that could be used, which was really great. So after we've gathered up our supplies and we've gathered up our tools, next I want you to actually gather up the gifts that you've bought for your loved ones. So this step provides the opportunity to check your gifts so far, and also to make your plan for finishing your shopping, sooner rather than later, especially if, this year, like I have to ship a lot of things because we're not going to be getting together in person. So I don't get the opportunity to shop right up until the end, since I need to get things shipped out in the next week or so. So like I said, it's great to kind of gather those things together. I actually have a spot under the table where I usually do all my wrapping, that I've been stashing those boxes that come from Amazon, or let's see, Natural Life, or Chewy, the pet store, all that kind of stuff. I have a couple bins under the table where, as those things have arrived, I've just kind of tucked those in there. And so as I started to do this project, I was able to kind of take a look at things and make sure that I had a good idea of what I already had in hand, and also a plan to accomplish the rest. So the other thing I want to remind you is to check all of your stash places. So sometimes we have more than one stash place, right? So maybe it's up high on the shelf so the kids don't find it. Maybe it's in the back of the closet. Maybe it's under the bed, in the crawl space, in the laundry room, who knows? But make sure you check all of those spots, because you could be farther along on your gift, on your holiday shopping than because you've found things throughout the year that now it is time to pass along as gifts. So my story about that is one year I received some lovely earrings one year in March. My birthday's in October. And Christmas is December. So I got these great earrings, which was wonderful for me. However, it was because my mom had bought them and then put them away and couldn't remember where. So that happens sometimes. And especially with earrings, because they're small, right? Something small like that could absolutely get, fall behind something. We just want to make sure that we have that all collected, so we don't have to repurchase things. That's money already spent. So we want to make the most of the money that we've spent already. I loved getting extra earrings though, so let's not, that's pretty nice. So after we have collected our tools and collected our wrap and collected our gifts that we have so far, now we match those things up, right? So we want to match up the gifts with the necessary wrap. And I made a note about this yesterday. We actually have in our family a number of December birthdays. And so I found myself wrapping some gifts in birthday paper in addition to Christmas paper. And so even though you wouldn't necessarily think about it, the same gifts that I'm taking to my nephew in Grand Rapids, he's got Christmas and birthday coming. And I do try to, keep it, the birthday still needs to be celebrated, even if it's at Christmas time. So I actually inventoried how much Christmas wrap or birthday wrap I had as well. So just a thought there. So only now, after you have matched all of those things up, now is the chance to run to the store, add it to your grocery list, add it to your shopping list, depending on how you shop, and pick up the wrap or tape or, bags or whatever it is that you think you need now that you've actually checked to see what stock you have in hand, right? So that's the organizer speaking. We don't want to overbuy. We don't want to have to store so much from year to year. We don't want to have to spend money we don't need to spend, right? Sounds pretty good to not have to do that. So, so by all means, like I said, once you've collected all that stuff and put it all together, only now, after you do all that, should you run up to the store or however you shop these days and pick up the extra supplies that you need. Okay. So, then go shopping, like I said, for your gift bags or your wrapping paper, your gift tags, ribbons, etc. Okay. And then we also want to make sure that we factor in the need for additional wrap for gifts that we haven't bought just yet, and also for the wrapping needs of anyone else living in your home. So, like I said, I won't be wrapping on Christmas Eve, but it's entirely possible that other people in my house might be wrapping gifts on Christmas Eve. So I always need to have a little bit of extra. So, there's enough for them as well, because they don't want to go shopping on Christmas Eve either. Okay. As we get to wrapping, we can do a couple things. So some people, when they gift wrap, they consider a theme. What I mean by that, so some folks will choose wrapping paper to match their living room or their, Christmas tree decor, or, maybe they just like a certain color and they want everything uniform. That's cool. Like you can absolutely do that. Maybe you just pick a color or a theme. So like I said, along a color or rustic or glitter, maybe you like really shiny underneath your Christmas tree. That's great. Okay. So that's one way of thinking of things. I've also heard of folks that use the wrap to tell them whose gift is whom's. And so, so I have 3 sons, and when they were younger, maybe if I didn't want them to be snooping and reading gift tags, before Christmas, and figuring out who got what, maybe I would just do it. I would just wrap one son's things in green paper and one son's things in blue paper and one son's things in red paper. And they wouldn't have to know what the code was. That could be purely for me. So that's one thing. And again, there's no rhyme or reason. You can also just choose what you like, and that's perfect. The whole color scheme thing, we can also do that just with ribbons. So you could have a variety of different colors under the tree of wrapping paper. And then maybe you have, things specifically for, my youngest son could be, again, with red ribbon or white ribbon or green ribbon, however that works. So just a couple thoughts. And then there's also matching the paper to your loved one's personalities, right? So my niece loves penguins. And so I found some really great penguin paper. I used it all. I don't have an example of it anymore. So when I found that wrapping paper, I made sure that her gifts were wrapped in penguin paper because it made her happy. So, so those are some things to think about too. Some people, I just like a fun jumble. That's great. And so if you like that too, that's perfect. Now I want to talk about destinations. So we usually have 3 or 4 different boxes underneath the wrapping table labeled with their destination. And what I mean by that is in any other given year, not in a pandemic, we would typically be going to three or four different places to celebrate Christmas. So we have Christmas Eve at my husband's cousin's house. We have Christmas morning with my kids and my husband and myself. We usually have Christmas dinner here with my husband's extended family. And then we usually travel to Michigan to see my extended family sometime around the holiday. So we could have four different boxes, and each of them, one of them might say Christmas Eve, Christmas morning, Christmas evening, and then Murray, my maiden name is Murray, so Murray Christmas, right? Michigan Christmas. So we usually have those boxes under the table, and it's a place for us to put either not wrapped or wrapped gifts, again, so we get an idea of who we have gifts for, what's already complete, what's been taken care of. And so when it comes time for those gifts to go, they're all set to go. It could be maybe a shopping bag if there's not too many things, or it could be an actual, like a big Amazon box, and we could haul that all with us. So these boxes can help us with other stuff too. So maybe they are, there's a special on Fannie Mae candy, and I'm going to give, boxes of candy as hostess gifts. And so those all go, one in each box as the boxes get set up and as I go to the store. And then it's great because all of those things are just waiting. And so when we're ready to go somewhere, they're all set to go with us. Again, things look a little different this year, but it's still a good idea. And the same thing this year is going to happen for us for packing and shipping. So the things that need to go to Grand Rapids for one part of my family will go in one box. Things that need to go to Kalamazoo for one part of my family, things that need to go to Ohio for a different part of my family, etc. So those boxes will also be labeled under the table as we wrap things and then put them in there so they're ready to go. So it's just really, really helps to have those set up beforehand, and gives you a place to put those things once they're ready to go. Okay. So another thing I want to remind you or suggest is that you collect your receipts. So collecting receipts for purchased items, I have mine in envelopes, okay, with different names on them. So I usually keep my own in a labeled envelope for just in case. So my receipts right there. And I also have one. Here's my one for my sister-in-law, Crystal. They've got little ones, and I don't want the receipts to get lost. This is for my brother, Patrick, and my niece. This is for my sister-in-law, Stephanie, and her family. So I have receipts, and as the packages arrive, I've been doing almost all my shopping online this year. As the packages arrive, I've been putting the receipts or, gift receipts from Amazon or packing slips from other vendors in those envelopes. And then I will put those either in the boxes or the packages as we ship them out. I don't mind if things get returned. I don't want people to have clutter sitting around their house if they've received a gift that they don't want to keep. So I am all about, make sure that you have something you want. And if it means returning something I purchased for you, I'm totally fine with that. So I always make sure to pass those receipts on so nobody has to ask for them. Okay. So, get wrapping, right? We mentioned do not wait and how to make them pretty. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute now. So I want to mention a couple things about wrapping paper before we start. And that is that good paper really matters. We want to have sturdy paper, but not too heavy. So the problem with really, really light paper is if you manhandle it at all, or if there's a box or something that's a little awkwardly sized, it's very possible that you'll rip the paper. And we don't want that to happen. And it's not a money saver to buy cheap paper, because if we have to wrap it twice or double wrap it because the paper's so thin you can see through it, then you really didn't save any money. So we want good paper, but we want it to be not too heavy. There was a year that I agreed to, probably even offered to wrap my mother-in-law's gifts. And she said to wrap them in brown butcher paper for a rustic look, which was actually very cute. but she provided dozens of paper grocery bags for me to make that happen. And that brown paper is a little heavier than regular butcher paper, and it was really awkward to work with. So like I said, heavy paper, like good solid paper is a good idea, but we don't want it to be too light or too thick because we want to be able to move it around. Okay. So as you are getting ready to actually wrap your gifts, right, there's actually rules of thumb for professional wrapping. Did you know that? I knew that, but there really are. We are, when we're choosing our boxes and our wrap, right, when we're pairing those things up, we want to match our patterns with the size of the box. So if you have a really tiny box, it makes no sense to have a really big pattern on that box, right? That makes no sense at all. Now you can absolutely go the other way. You can have a really big box with a very fine pattern, like with a very small pattern, but we don't want to, okay. So I have this really cute snowman paper that I got. Well, this is great, but there might actually be boxes that I have that this is too big for. So I would probably go with one of my other papers instead of that one because I want them to match. I don't want the paper to overwhelm the box. That's silly. The secret to professional wrapping is clean seams. Okay. So we want to make sure that our seams on our wrap are really, really smooth and really, really clean. So you can barely see that there's even a seam back there, and that's a good thing. Okay, we're going to talk about how to get that, how to achieve that in just a minute as well. But that's one of the keys to a nice professional look is to have really clean, smooth seams on your package. Another thing that professional wrappers do is we want to center. So for example, this little one, so I could do the Santa on that one, right? That wouldn't be too bad, but I would want to make sure that I would have at least a couple of them represented on the top of the box. Okay. And I wouldn't want them to be cut in half or in pieces. I mean, I could, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it would also be really nice if I could have a couple of those uninterrupted patterns on the top of that box, just because, again, it makes it look nice. Not essential, just an idea. All right. So I'm actually going to switch to, okay, the actual wrapping. So if you want to bear with me just a minute, I'm going to move this and we are going to set up a little differently so you can see my hands. There we go. Was that silly? Sorry about that. Okay. And you got to see my full Christmas dress. I was so excited to get that out today. So thank you guys for the opportunity to do that too. Okay. So as you determine what size wrapping paper you need for the box, you obviously want to lay the wrap flat in your workspace. Okay. So make sure that the wrap covers all the wide ends of your package. And I was going to cut this ahead of time and I totally forgot. Sorry about that. And a little more, because again, we want to make a nice smooth seam, which is going to require us to there we go, to fold something over a little bit. Okay. Now, no judgment on what I might actually have here gift-wise. Okay. So like I said, what we want to do is we want to take our box and we want to actually match it up with the paper that we have. So we can start at the edge, if you can see the edge there, right? And so then we fold it over a couple times on the paper to make sure that it's going to fit. And this one absolutely will. So we're good. Okay. Now, we need a couple inches on both sides, right? If I was going to be wrapping this gift again, we would want to have a couple inches on all sides so we can have those nice smooth seams. Okay. So if the paper is too narrow, we do want to go ahead and switch the paper. Okay, we don't want that to be, or maybe we could wrap along the long side. And what I mean by that is sometimes we have, you know, maybe we can just shimmy them, excuse me, shimmy them around on the page, on the piece of paper, maybe. So what's kind of cool, and I don't know if you noticed this, is that a lot of papers now have this metering on the inside. You can see that. So this paper is really, really nice to work with. It's nice and heavy. And it also has this metering on the inside, which means I can have nice square seams as I'm moving along. Okay, so I'm gonna actually wrap this one. Okay, so, yep, all right. So what is nice, I'm gonna actually put a little bit of tape. This is a keepsake box. You can see that, like the box is part of the gift. And so I don't ruin the box, I'm gonna put a little piece of tape and I'm gonna put it inside the box to keep the lid closed as I work with it. If you see that, I just tape that together, and then it won't ruin, if they take the piece of tape off, they're not going to ruin the box, because we don't want that to happen, right? So the other thing that's nice, so the inside of this paper is metered. Well, I also choose patterns because I'm silly like that, but I also choose patterns that are squared off as well. So it's easy, again, to get a nice smooth seam. So this one has a very specific line that you can use. And so getting your paper and your everything aligned looks really, really sharp. And it's really easy to work with. So, you know, there's other patterns that do the same thing. Oh, let's see. I have this one. It's a ho, ho, ho pattern. But this one also has some very easy lines to see. And so as I'm trying to make things nice and square, I can use my paper well. Okay, so they do that for a reason. It makes it simpler. Okay, so as you're getting your stuff ready, right? So I have my box and it's ready to go. And I'm getting ready to do the work. All right, so we want to center it on the page of wrapping paper. Okay, so it's pretty centered on there. And I want to go about halfway down the box, right? Yep, okay. So about halfway down the box, and then I'm just going to use a little teeny piece of tape, because again, I don't want them to blemish the box. Not this one specifically, it's pretty nice. And I just need it to hold still. So it's really just holding it in place, right? And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but I am going to fold it. I'm going to fold it along that seam and make it nice and square, right? I'm going to use the lines inside, and I'm going to make it nice and square so I get that nice smooth looking seam, okay? And so I can do that, and actually this one is a really cool piece to work with. Now I'm getting too stuck on details now, sorry about that. Okay. So, so I can line that up. All right, I'm not going totally overboard here. So I used transparent tape here, but there's actually double-sided tape. If you ever wanted to use that for a really, really clean seam, you can use that. So I use that double-sided tape in there, and I can close it up like that, and then you don't even see the tape. So that's kind of nice too, right? So we've got it in there, and then we fold the ends, all right? So I like, again, let's see if I can do this without tipping it over. Okay, maybe I can, maybe I can't. We're gonna find out. Okay, here, I'll do it up here. All right, so how we can do things, like I said, we want a nice smooth seam. And sometimes, if you remember, I actually cut this paper for a different size box. So if it's kind of sloppy like that, I could cut it off, but I'm not gonna do that for sake of today. I like to fold this all the way down. So what we end up with is these triangles on the side. So if this is actually on YouTube and it's recording, you might want to look at this again, I guess. Okay, but what's nice about that is then we get this nice smooth seam, right, as we go along. So we've got that, and then we can fold that in again. Right, so now again, we've got that nice smooth seam. There's no rough edges, and it's going to be a nice finished product when we're done. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay, I'm going to get those triangles on the side, right, and that's okay. Then I'm going to fold them in. And again, if I was doing my own stuff, I'd probably to be quick about it, I would probably cut off the excess, but I just want to kind of, whoops, walk you guys through that. That was the double-sided tape, and I don't want the double-sided tape. There we go. Okay, so there's that. And then we do the same thing up here, and we are good to go. Okay, so like I said, professional wrapping is symmetrical and smooth. And so for a nice finish, you really want to make sure that your edges are smooth, that everything's symmetrical and squared off, right? Now there's also beautiful boxes that you can purchase these days that are pre-wrapped. I mean, they're just decorated that way. So, you know, here's a cute little Santa box, or excuse me, snowman box. And you can have that, you know, there's all kinds of these out there, and you could just leave it that way. That would be perfect. A client of mine, we were going through her stuff from last year when we pulled it out on Tuesday, and she actually had a number of boxes. So hers wasn't a character. It actually looked more like this, the finished product, but the lid popped right off. So that was something that she purchased at the end of the season last year. They're kind of pricey, but they're really great, and you can use them forever. So she really liked that, and she really liked the look of those. But you can also use hat boxes, cookie tins, gift bags. I use gift bags all the time. I reuse them like crazy, just because they're very, they're easy. They're pretty. They take up a lot less space as you move things around. They are eco-friendly and reusable. And they're also really user-friendly. You know, consider if you have small children that are opening gifts on Christmas, or maybe older folks who kind of stumble also with ribbons and packages and things. Gift bags can be very attractive and very fun, and they're also pretty easy to access. And so sometimes, like I said, sometimes our gift recipients need things to be a little easier, and that's a good thing, right? So I always like to, like, if I'm going to wrap a gift, there we go. Okay. So this was one that I have for my niece. Now I have her gift in here. I might put some tissue paper in there. I actually bought new ones for her today because this isn't a very niece, like, I was looking for something a little more fun. Because it's a truck. But if I was decorating this, I might put some tissue paper, either white or definitely red. I would also put some, you know, some curling ribbon and things like that. You can tie these together, and then they're ready to go. You don't have to do anything more with them, which is really, really great. Okay. So we're going to talk about bows, because I love making bows. But before I do, there's other things that we use that are reusable. And I guess it's a testimony to how many gift cards people tend to give teenage boys. We have quite the assortment of gift card tins, and I love them. So, you know, they fit like that, and they're really cute. And we have a lot of them, and we save them from year to year. So I have those, I have, you know, things like that. So if you see them and if you want to do a gift card, look, it's got the little Amazon and the little window for to actually see the number. But that's an idea too, is to keep a handful of these on hand and a stash of gift cards. And so if you need them, they're ready to go. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit in our last few minutes together about ribbons. Okay, so Annie, are we doing okay with questions? Were there any questions so far?
None so far, but if you do have questions, I want to remind you that you can put those in the chat box, and then I'll read them aloud to Colleen as we go.
Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, so you have lots of ribbon choices, maybe a few too many ribbon choices. And before I start telling you about ribbon, maybe you don't even care about ribbon, and that's okay. I like ribbons. I like well-dressed gifts. And yet you know, we are going to be shipping a lot of things, and sometimes ribbons don't always fare too well in shipping. So, you know, maybe you don't do that, and that's okay. So I'm just going to go through a couple different ribbons that I've learned to make over the years that are super easy. And this could absolutely be an example, one of those options of going back and looking at it later as you're trying to put things together, because it might be too quick in the next 10 minutes to walk you through them. But yeah, so we'll just get started. Okay, so we've got the, you know, plain old boring everyday, you know, right down the middle, or maybe I do love curling ribbons. Okay, so this would not be, I would not typically use red, white, and green on this paper, but this is what I have, and it's not going to be permanent. And I think it kind of stands out a little more. So I'm gonna, there we go. Okay, so this is one of the things that I had pre-wrapped, right? And so if we wanted to just do something simple, if we're going to do, I'm going to do this again in just a minute. So maybe we would just want something simple like that. It's actually just tied in the middle, right? No problem. So that one's pretty simple. And this is curling ribbon, right? You could also do this with a thick ribbon like this. But the secret to this, obviously, is to get enough of it to go a couple times around the gift. And we wrap it around the front. And then so now the face is down. Now we bring these two together and we crisscross them in the back. All right. And then we bring it back around the front. So that's what we have on the back. And then we end up with a nice bow in the front, right? So we can do that, and we can tie that off. Now, something that I tend to do once we get it to this point is I'll tie it, but then I'll also have kind of a number of these things together, right? And you don't have to do 3, by the way. You could absolutely just do 1, or maybe you like a bunch of colors like this. That's what I love about curling ribbon, is you can do that. And so instead of doing the bow, I might just bundle it like this a couple times so it's nice and full. And then we've got that, and we can tie that with the rest of it on the front of the gift, and then we can curl that. So I actually did one of these yesterday. Oh. Okay. And so this is a gift that's ready to go. So you can see I kind of made a nice full ribbon just with the curling ribbon that I have. And what you can also do, sometimes if I do this in the middle of the gift, I could do this. And then we could also, if we do multiples, like I did with this one with multiple colors, we can kind of, you can see that we can separate these, and it makes a bigger statement. So if you had this and you just wanted to make it just a big box and a bigger ribbon, you can even do that with a thin ribbon, because you can, you know, do it multiple. You can make that statement a little bigger, so you can kind of spread those out and have that fun in the middle like that. Okay, so super simple. I think they're fun. Yeah. So, you know, we've got the right down the middle. You know, we could do just something simple like that, right? We could do it at the top. We could crisscross. So maybe we've got a box like this. So I've got the one around there once, and we could do just a plain old X, right? So we could absolutely do that. But we could also do it kind of in a up in the corner. I like this one for shirt boxes. And so I just think it looks sharp. So we could kind of do it up like that, right? And so what's nice about that then, it's just a little different. Like I said, I just think it looks really sharp. And we like well-dressed gifts. So we've got that going on. So again, you could do it right down the middle. You could just do one or the other. And again, you might want to work with a pattern that you have. If it's the snowman pattern that I showed you, maybe you could put a snowman right here if you were going to do the ribbon. And so then you could really see that on the gift. And maybe I'm spending way too much time thinking about wrapping, which is entirely possible. But if you wanted to do something fun like that, then you absolutely could. Okay. So, another thing that I want to show you is how to actually make your own bows. Okay, so in addition to the the one that we did already with just the curling ribbon. And again, it's not complicated. It was just, you know, kind of multiple all at once, and then it makes it nice and full. And you can't, I'm just tying these together so they don't get all fluffy. And, but then you can, you know, leave some of the ends long, and you can do the curls and things like that. And it just makes it nice and full on the gift, on the box. So once you have something like this though, I wanted to show you a couple different ways that I have of making actual bows. Like you can totally just buy a box. That's absolutely fine. A box of bows. I have a bag of bows. Yes, I do. And I'm okay with that. But I also sometimes like to make my own. And so, so there's a couple different kinds that I make. And the first one is just real simple. I start out with a loop, right? Okay. And then I'm gonna make that a little bigger because I'm gonna staple it, and I got my stapler stuck. Okay, so we've got that. And then we just kind of go back and forth in a zigzag pattern, but we hold it in that center, right? And we can do that a couple times, and just, you know, 2 or 3 times. Now that's almost the whole width of my box. All right. So once we've got it that way, okay, we can staple it right in the middle. And we can cut it off. And again, if you want to make really, really professional, these are like the worst scissors ever. If you want to make really professional looking gifts, if you can see the end of this, I actually made it messy. Sorry about that. But if you want to make them look really snazzy, you kind of pinch it together so the ends are together, and then you make a triangle. So you end up, oh, that's not good. Okay, first things first, you start with a nice smooth edge. There we go. And then you do it that way, and you end up with a triangle. And doesn't that look cool? So if I wanted to do that with this one, and you can do it, you can make a point too, obviously. All right, so there's that and that. So now I have that will be my end, which is just kind of a nice, I don't know, I think it's just a nice little detail. So now that I've made this, and that was in what, like 20 seconds, not a big deal. I could just stick that on there, right like that. Okay. And if I was going to do that with this one, I'd probably set this in the center, so it's nice and centered like that. But doesn't that look sharp? And that was seriously a minute or 2, not any kind of trouble. It looks kind of nice from the side, and that takes, you know, ribbon I already had. Seriously, I bought 2 rolls of wrapping paper today, and I'm ready for the year, and some bags. So there's one. And like I said, that was just a really simple, start with that circle and go back and forth a couple times. And then you give yourself that nice edge on the end. And we did that by pinching it together, right? And we could totally be done. We could stick it right there, and that looks really, really great. Okay. So that's one way we could do it. Another way that we can do it is by starting out, with the roll again, the circle, okay? And we can do that a couple times. And we've got that. And maybe we just make the circle bigger, okay? So that's another way. And actually I have a finished one of those. So I have one of those that I already did, and I already stapled it, okay? And so what we can do with this, now we could just do this one, like to the side or on an angle like that might be nice. Or we could do something like this, which again is just super simple. All I did was loop it together like that, right? And I can make my snazzy ends if I wanted to for the finished product. So details, it's all about the details sometimes. All dressed gifts. And we could do that with some tape, and then that with some tape. And again, you've got a really snazzy, that took 2 seconds, but you've got a really great presentation, and it looks very sharp and very professional, and will look fabulous under your tree, and will be absolutely something that you won't be, that you will be very happy to give to friends. So, so those are a couple different ideas. Another thing that I do sometimes is you can take a thick ribbon. I'm going to do it on this one. And I would not use gold on this since it's shiny and red and silver, but you get the idea. So what you could do is you could take a thick ribbon. Like I have rolls of fabric ribbon that I got on discount a couple of Christmases ago, and that stuff lasts forever. So you could do this, and actually then you could also do a thinner ribbon down the middle of it. So if you wanted a really snazzy look, you could take that and, you know, kind of double up your ribbons as well. So that looks really nice. And then you could, again, choose to make any of those bows that I just showed you. That would be a really great presentation if you want to go to all that trouble. And if you don't, that's totally fine. That's absolutely understandable. So those are just a couple of things that I would want you to look at, a couple different things. And then I would be remiss in our last few minutes. Oh, 2:59. We are good. I would be remiss in our last few minutes if I didn't say something about storing things till next year. So, oh, one more thing. Then we'll talk about storage. Once we have put together our beautiful, right, gifts with the ribbons, and we're so proud of ourselves, we can also dress up our gifts with tags, obviously. But we can also dress them up with maybe a Christmas ornament. It's fun to get them with like a nice holiday pen or maybe a candy cane. I was at Walgreens buying wrapping paper because I did all of this yesterday and inventoried all my stuff. And check it out. They have hand sanitizer in red and green. Like hilarious. These are so fun. So you can absolutely add some interest to your gifts if you wanted to. A couple of years ago, I gave my niece who's 25, I gave her, she wanted cooking and baking items, and I used cookie cutters like as her little kind of decorations on her gifts. And you could also do like bow or bells or bows or things like that. So one thing that my grandparents did when we were kids is they always put an ornament on one of our Christmas gifts every year. So we always had a collection of ornaments then from for when we grew up and had our tree too. So looking at storage, we want to make sure that we store our things well from year to year. That's why I was able to pull all this stuff out yesterday. And it was all set and ready to go. It wasn't crushed. It was in good shape. And so I recommend, you know, under bed storage totes or standing storage. I actually prefer the under bed just because you can absolutely put it away. I mentioned earlier the hanging bag that I have for my wraps for the rest of the year. And you can just Google that. Probably Container Store would have something. Actually, probably a lot of places would have them, but you might be able to get ideas from the Container Store. And so we just want to make sure that we get all this stuff put away before next year. So, you know, it saves, honestly, looking around at my table at all the things I brought up. If I had to buy all of this new, it would cost me hundreds of dollars. So the fact that I already have the tags and the ribbons and the bags that I keep from year to year has saved me lots and lots of money over the years. So like I said, we just want to make sure that we store it all when we're done so that it's ready for us next December. So okay, were there questions? I saw one flit across the page.
Yeah, we do have a few of them. Our first one is, how do you know if your gift paper is sturdy enough? How do you choose your gift papers? Is there a place that you buy from that you would recommend? They never seem to know what the paper will be like according to the price, unless you pay like $9.99 for a small roll.
Fair enough. No, that is a very good question. And it's funny, my husband and I were laughing. So this is actually called heavyweight gift wrap. This is heavyweight gift wrap from Walgreens today. So I, like I said, I was willing to pay. I'm very frugal with my gift wrap. Like I don't cut excessively. I measure, you know, I'm pretty careful when I cut. I try to use all the scraps and things like that. So I don't mind spending a little more because I know I'm going to get a whole lot of use out of it. But I do, you know, I have been burned as well with cheap paper. And, you know, as soon as I try to put a box or something in there, it busts right through the corner. So, especially when you start to fold in the seams and try to make those smooth edges, you know, if it is a thin paper, it will break. So, you know, but that was a Walgreens. Like, you don't have to buy it from Pottery Barn or from Williams Sonoma. You don't have to go crazy. I used to get it all from Target. So, but that I still would go ahead and purchase the heavier weight. So, you know, I've gotten some samples, you know, through the years from Defenders of Wildlife or something like that. You know, the different things that come in the big envelope this time of year. And that is really thin paper. Like, it's fun and it's pretty, but you know, they don't mean to have it be worth $1 million. So, you know, this one specifically says heavyweight, and I can absolutely feel that when I pick it up. Aside from having it stay heavyweight, I wouldn't know necessarily what you might get otherwise. Yeah, I don't think you need to go and buy it from a high-end store, but you might want to go ahead and invest in a little heavier weight just from the regular store that you're at. If that probably answers it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have another one.
Yes.
How do you put those beautifully wrapped gifts with bows and not smash the bows when you put them all in a box for transport? This has happened to me.
That is a very good idea. So sometimes I will stagger the gifts themselves. So I'll put the bigger ones on the outside of the box, so things aren't going to fall, you know, fall around anyway. And so let's say if this was one of them that was in my box, if my ribbon was right up here, this would be, you know, in the box. And actually, if the box sides were low enough, I might flip it around. I might take advantage of my loved ones and ask them to put the ribbons on them once they arrived, if I really wanted to go there. Now you could, you know, this is not, so we've got this one right here. I've now, you know, moved everything, but, you know, so this one, even if it was smashed flat, would probably pop back up again pretty well. And I didn't go too much into, I have clients now that use fabric gift bags, especially for shipping. So they end up being kind of like a cinch sack at the top. And it's, you know, those make it really, really easy for shipping. And you could do that. So if I had the gift bag like this one that I had, I could fold it flat, fold the top over, do something like that. This one's pretty full, but I could, you know, I could make it, and curling ribbons often do pop back up. So the really thin ribbons, maybe not these guys, but the thin ribbons might pop back up. So careful packing tends to help. And like I said, sometimes I'll just take advantage of whoever's receiving them and say, could you, you know, here's a baggie of ribbons. Could you pop those on the front for me? I'll make sure to label them and things like that. But for shipping purposes, it might be easier to just stick those on when they get there.
That's a good idea. If we have any more questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. I know we have quite a few people watching on YouTube today, so there's a slight delay on there. But if you have questions over on that platform as well, please feel free to put those in the chat and we can ask those.
Awesome. This was so fun. I really was very excited to, make a mess in my dining room, unfortunately, but I was really excited to get all my stuff. So everything that I just recommended that you guys do to get started is exactly what I did. I went through all my stuff. I found out what we already had in hand. I stopped at the store today to pick up more wrap, but there was a number of things I didn't need, which was really great. So I really do, I recommend it highly, and I live it myself. So I'm not just telling you to do things that I haven't tried. This is really how it works. So.
Absolutely. Not seeing any more questions coming in. So Thank you so much for being here, Colleen. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. If you guys are watching this on YouTube and you don't have the handout, if you want to reach out to me via my website, peaceofmindpo.com, you can always find me there. And I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Insta and all those things too. And I'll be happy to share. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Great.
Well, thank you all for being here. Happy holidays and have fun organizing.
Thank you.
Take care.